Good morning. Just want to thank you for being here as we inform our community about Operation Flashpoint. It's a program designed to spot suspicious activity related to bomb making. I'm happy to be joined today by Orlando Police Chief Orlando Rallone, FBI Assistant Special Agent in Charge Ian Kaufman, Dr. David Mussington, Executive Assistant Director at the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, and Chuck Lees, also from CISA. Operation Flashpoint highlights the threat posed by domestic violent extremists and others who can build explosive devices using common household items found in hardware stores and other retail outlets. Business owners and our residents and visitors are our eyes and ears in the community. By learning how to spot suspicious behavior or a stockpile of these kinds of chemicals, they can potentially help law enforcement stop an attack before it happens. Operation Flashpoint gives us all the knowledge we need to recognize the suspicious behaviors around bomb making, which could prevent a future attack. I would ask everyone watching today to pay attention to the signs. If you see someone in your neighborhood stockpiling things like acetone or pool chemicals when they don't have a pool, these could be red flags. In Orange County, we know how important it is that we look out for each other and report any suspicious activity. What we learn here today could help thwart an attack in the future. Thank you all for being here to educate our community. And now I would like to turn it over to Orlando Police Chief Orlando Rallone. Thank you.
Thank you, Under Sheriff Canty. At the City of Orlando Police Department, our number one priority is the safety of our residents, visitors, and businesses. And it is through partnerships like this one that helps us do just that. Not only are we closely working with federal, state, and local agencies to help prevent threats of this magnitude, but we're also educating and empowering our community members to act when they witness suspicious activity. We all play a role in keeping our community safe, and remember to stay vigilant and say something when you see something suspicious, like it was mentioned by Under Sheriff Canty. With that said, I think you're going to want to hear more from ASAC Kaufman, who has more details than all of us here put together.
Thank you, Chief Rallone, and thank you to the Orange County Sheriff's Office for hosting this event today. My name is Ian Kaufman. I'm the Assistant Special Agent in charge of the FBI Tampa Division. I oversee all of our counterterrorism investigations, and I manage our weapons of mass destruction and crisis management programs. I also oversee all the investigations out of our Orlando resident agency and our Brevard resident agency. Often, law enforcement engages with the public and local businesses, the private sector, in response to criminal activity or in the aftermath of a tragic event. The objective of Operation Flashpoint is to provide those local businesses with an opportunity to actively participate in the identification and the disruption of those with intent on harming or damaging our local communities. The goal of Operation Flashpoint is through these relationships to prevent these criminal acts and tragic events from occurring rather than law enforcement engaging with local business after the fact. So one of the most significant challenges that law enforcement faces is identifying criminals before a criminal act occurs, collecting the evidence of the crime that hasn't yet been committed, and successfully prosecuting those individuals. So how are we going to do it? We are going to, the FBI, along with our partners here today, establish meaningful relationships with local businesses, educate those businesses on behavior and activity that's indicative of individuals who are potentially manufacturing explosive devices, and ensure that we have open lines of communication so they can efficiently reach out to law enforcement and provide that information so that in the event that swift action does need to be taken, we can take that action to prevent criminal activity from occurring. So I'm confident that through Operation Flashpoint, we will be successful in enhancing the security and the safety of our communities. Thank you. With that, I will turn it over to David Mussington, the Executive Assistant Director, CISA.
Just a few remarks, and I refer in advance that all difficult questions will go to my colleague Ian. I'm a visitor in town, been here for a few hours, and I'm always happy to reach out and collaborate with partners who make CISA's work possible, CISA's work more effective, and that's really what this is about for us. When I first introduce myself, I'm the Executive Assistant Director for Infrastructure Security at CISA. The Office for Bombing Prevention, which is the real heart and soul of this effort, works for me. We're about reducing risk, mitigating and moderating risk as it appears, left of boom prior to events. In order to do that, we need to leverage the capabilities of partners, our partners in law enforcement, our partners in state and local government, and our partners in the public, who are our eyes and ears in terms of detecting threats early, enabling response, and hopefully saving human lives. That's really our focus. So one of the major focuses we have is securing soft targets in crowded places. Think about where people go, shopping malls, schools, public spaces where people live their lives and exchange as part of their lives in economic and other activity. That's where we want to protect them from the impact of IEDs and the impacts of bombs. And how do we go about doing that? We go about doing that by increasing the transparency of risk conditions, what we know about risks in the public environment. For us, soft targets in crowded places are critical infrastructure, and that's our major focus. Now, bomb threats are a serious threat to local communities across the United States, and just last year, our Office of Bombing Prevention and the U.S. Bomb Data Center counted a total of 1,876 bomb threats, 4,935 suspicious or unattended packages, and 381 bomb-related incidents reported across the United States. Major bombings can cause mass casualty events and cost hundreds of millions of dollars to remediate. That's our focus. It's critical for retailers and the public to recognize and report suspicious activity in order to save economic damage and save human lives. Recent bombing events and plots in the US remind us that the threat is very real. Just a quick list. In July alone, 16 schools throughout Florida have received bomb threats, with the majority of them in the last couple of weeks. Between the months of January and February of this year, more than 30 of the 105 historically Black colleges and universities received bomb threats, a total of 75 bomb threats, all of which needed to be investigated, all of which needed to be safed, all of which caused anxiety to students and the communities in which those institutions reside. And obviously on Christmas Day 2020, the Nashville bombing injured 3 people, killed a perpetrator, and caused a host of critical infrastructure impacts, many of which weren't anticipated, all of which were generated by an IED, all of which appear to be generated by the activities of a few or a single individual. The use of bombs by domestic violent extremists, or DVE actors, poses a particular concern. DVEs are the greatest threat to conduct lethal violence in the homeland, as Secretary Mayorkas, Secretary of Homeland Security, recently remarked. These plots have frequently targeted law enforcement, government facilities, and critical infrastructure locations. Terrorists, criminals, and actors can purchase common household chemicals and components at beauty supply stores. That's a focus of Flashpoint. Hardware stores, pool supply stores, sporting goods stores, and at 250,000 point of sale institutions in this country sell or distribute materials that can be repurposed illegitimately to make bombs. So that's the focus of Flashpoint, Operation Flashpoint, doing something about that. So we're enthusiastic at CISA to work with partners such as the FBI, again, Ian to handle the difficult questions, to build awareness in communities and keep the public safe. So Operation Flashpoint's a milestone in implementing US policy to thwart IED and bomb threats. It shows a strong unity in the federal government and the integrated capability that the government can provide when it enables communities to protect themselves. So building capacity in the private sector and among communities is the means to that end. So we're grateful to the FBI for the close collaboration of its Weapons of Mass Destruction Directorate and with our Bomb Making Materials and Awareness Program, BMAP. BMAP is the program within which Operation Flashpoint resides within CISA. So to enhance security in our communities, we rely heavily on the public. public eyes and ears. The nation's counter-IED eyes and ears, to use a phrase, is the first line of defense for us against IED threats and bombs. Retailers and Americans paying attention to their surroundings is the best way to get early warning of the repurposing of legitimate chemicals, beauty supplies, et cetera, for bomb-making purposes. And that, again, is a focus of Flashpoint. Just a word on some resources that CISA has made available in connection with this effort. The Bomb Making Materials Awareness Program, or BMAP, has a website at cisa.gov/BMAP, where retailers and the public can get more information about what to look for in order to enhance awareness. We also released an annual report at the Tripwire site, that is CISA, or tripwire.dhs.gov, that provides statistics and trends and analysis of bomb threats and IED developments. All of this adds to the public corpus of data and information about bomb threat activity and allows all of us to be better informed on what the risks are that exist. Just lastly, I want to make a call for action to the public. Please be vigilant. Threats are not diminishing. What we need to do is enable the public to protect itself through better knowledge, better insight, and better information. That means if you recognize threats, see something, say something, and if in doubt, 1-800-CALL-FBI. Thanks very much. Happy to take questions later on.
Well, thank you for coming today. My name is Chuck Laius. I work for the CISA Bomb Making Materials Awareness Program. And to all you out there watching right now, I really want to thank you because you are taking an active role in trying to prevent crimes and bombing incidents in your community. So thank you. Because without you, we're not going to be successful. So the Cybersecurity, Infrastructure Security Agency and the FBI working with our local partners, which I really appreciate them inviting us today. This conference room is amazing. I wish we had one like this locally, but it's awesome. This is the first attempt at doing a whole nation, whole government approach. When we say whole government, let's just think about it. Us not doing our own thing, but working together. Really, the FBI and CISA are working together with our state and local partners as one team, one fight. We're also talking about the community, because without the community, how many times when there's an incident after the fact, whether it's a bombing or something else, someone goes, hey, I recognize this. This looked a little suspicious. Well, think about that at the beginning and call the 1-800-CALL-FBI and report it anonymously if you need to. If you don't want to give your name, that's fine. And if the person isn't doing anything wrong, there's not going to be an issue. But if they are doing something nefarious, you may have just saved your family member or a friend of the family or a student or someone else. So it's really important to think about that. Now, as far as Dr. Mussington mentioned, 250,000 stores in this country sell chemicals that actually help us in our daily use. They're totally, you have them in your house. They help us every day. It makes our lives better. But nefarious actors can take those not as intended and make them into materials that could cause damage or a bomb. There's activities that happen that are honestly easily identifiable, in my opinion, on how combinations and amounts, if you're just paying attention and know your normal baseline in your community. The business owners here, whether it's a pool store, beauty supply, hardware, they generally know their customer base. They know who their contractors are. They know who are the do-it-yourselfers, to come in and want to build their house themselves or take care of their pool. So if someone's coming into a pool store and they don't know what pool shock is, that may be an area of concern. Another area of concern is if they don't know the size of their pool. No one wants to spend extra money on products, especially nowadays, right? So, we want to get enough pool shock to make our pool healthy so we can go swimming. In other parts of the country, it may be an incident of out-of-season purchases, because some areas in this country, pools aren't all year round. So you need to think about those types of things. And you need to really, really work with law enforcement. This is a community effort. We're working together to try to make the community safe, but you have a vested interest in this. Now, some of our goals is early detection, as was stated earlier. We also are concerned, many of these products are bought legally, right? So you could be in the store, maybe the clerk doesn't see what you see. You can still report it. call the FBI, call your local law enforcement, and let them know. Another thing is in the community, and we have some really great videos on the BMAP site, CISA.gov/BMAP, where there's one about vigilant neighbor, vigilant manager, and vigilant employee. They're all about 3 minutes. I encourage you to watch them. The one is about in the neighborhood, like earlier was stated, someone's getting pool shock delivered to their house and they don't have a pool. Oh, that doesn't make much sense unless they have their own business, and you would know that probably because they're your neighbor. That's why it's important to know your neighbors. And a lot of times in our communities now, we don't really talk to our neighbors, but it's important to talk to your neighbors so you know if something's happening in your neighborhood. And then is to prevent diversion and theft of these products. Every once in a while, there is products that are stolen. And then building a vigilant network of eyes and ears around the country. And as stated before, buying these products is not illegal in itself. It's what they do with the products that could become an illegal incident, and how they are combining the products as not intended. So I just want to reaffirm again, if you see something suspicious, please say something, help us, help you, and call 1-800, call FBI. It can be anonymous. Thank you. We're available for questions. Dr. Mussington.
First, there's a secular trend since 2015 in the country in the occurrence of explosive incidents. For Florida, I think I'll defer to local officials who may be more knowledgeable about conditions.
We haven't seen any increase in bomb threats in Florida over an extended period of time or in recent years, with the exception of what might be considered a typical ebb and flow of a spike in bomb threats and then a lull period.
I know it was also mentioned that some of the more recent bomb threats have been towards schools and colleges. Do you know why that might be? Is that connected to the increase in mass shootings that we've also seen in schools?
So there has been an increase in bomb threats to schools, particularly within the last few weeks. It's not unique to Florida. It's been happening across the country. We, the FBI, are asking our law enforcement partners to provide us with information related to those bomb threats when they do come in as the central repository for specifically the bomb threats that have occurred over the last few weeks to universities throughout the country. But I can't speak specifically to the ongoing efforts by the FBI with regard to the rash and bomb threats.
When you look at the display table, a lot of these are household items for community members, for people working in hardware stores. What would it take, how many, someone buying 8 of those projects to suggest possibly something nefarious?
So we would really like to, we're working with corporate offices of different companies, and actually we have our CISA field force, which is our protective security advisors, along with our chemical security inspectors, along with the FBI, are actually conducting in-person outreach. They've done a lot in Florida this year, believe it or not. So we're trying to get the information out. We give a little bit more information to the store than what we're really going to say here. We're not trying to how-to right now. But basically, there's certain chemicals and products combinations. Like, for instance, if you're going to a hardware store and you're going to paint your house or paint a room, you're probably going to get a paintbrush, probably get something to stir the paint, and maybe acetone, right? But if you're going there and you're saying, hey, I'm going to paint my house and I'm buying a case of acetone, oh, and I want to get some drain cleaner, that doesn't really make much sense, And then think about when you use drain cleaner in your house, and hopefully you don't have too many problems in your home, but generally you may have maybe buy 1 or 2 drain cleaners a year, possibly. If someone's coming in to get a case, or maybe in combination with other things that may be something suspicious, just remember, these are legal purchases. And if you think it looks weird, a lot of times it may be suspicious. And just call the number. Let the law enforcement professionals do a check, because there may be something where this person did something in another part of the country that now they can tie it. So we need that help. Just so you can report it anonymously. I just ask the public to please call, because if you don't call, we can't take any action.
What stores are potential targets, not just hardware stores?
Yes, so without giving names of stores, but hardware, pool supply, gun stores, sporting goods stores, fireworks stores. There's a big fireworks place right down the street here right now, actually. Pool supply, pharmacy, to name a few. And then there's distributors, there's chemical facilities, which there's another program that CISA runs called ChemLock that helps with that program.
For those at home watching, you know, the threat of homemade bombs has been around for decades. People like Unabomber talk about why now, why this effort now, Operation Flashpoint.
So I would say that the government and state and locals have always tried to, because this is a persistent and evolving threat. It continues, and it's been there since probably the beginning of the United States in one way or another. We've all kind of like done our own thing in the past and done the outreach and tried to engage. What changes Operation Flashpoint is we are actually working together. Think about that. The government actually is working together, right? That's awesome. And that's what we're doing here. We're actually working together as partners. We're not worried about jurisdictional lines. We are trying to make the community safer, but in the end, we can only make it safe if you help us.
And then can you expand on the involvement, like how many law enforcement call across the country, different levels? Do you already have a list of people who participate, or are you still reaching out to law enforcement agencies?
Well, so luckily, there's about 56 field offices, I believe, if I'm correct, in the United States for the FBI. So they have connectivity with a lot of the local law enforcement across the country. CISA is broken down into 10 regions, and we have a field force that's in all those regions. So we are connecting with the FBI and connecting with local law enforcement. So we're doing the best we can with limited resources like everybody, but it's really the people in the community. I encourage them to go and watch some of the videos I talked about, because you can spread the word. It's really about spreading the word. So you being here helps us.
If you see something suspicious in a store, what do? You go to the store and ask for the owner of the store, and what happens after that?
Well, most important thing is to contact law enforcement, but I suggest to call 1-800-FBI, 1-800-CALL-FBI, sorry, because they have a call center and they're trained to take these kind of calls and filter them, and then the FBI or local law enforcement can investigate it.
If we could just get a quick comment from either OPD or the sheriff's office, just as to why you guys wanted to prioritize an operation like this here locally.
I think the main goal for the sheriff's office here is to protect our community, and we're always safer when we can collaborate with our partners. I think we've had experience here with violence here and mass shootings, and our response to that was not one agency or two agency. It was over 27 agencies that responded. So anytime we can partner with other law enforcement agencies, the community is much safer. So that's why it's important for us. Like I said, our main goal is to keep our community safe. And if I have to leverage other municipalities, our federal partners, anything I can do to keep the residents and visitors safe in Orange County, we will do. So that's why it's important to us.
Is there any part of this operation that deals with people that call in bomb threats? It may not be a suspicious package, but someone calling and saying there's a bomb in this building. Because I know we've seen that sometimes, like in downtown Orlando and other areas, when someone calls in a threat.
Typically, when people call in a threat to 911, a local agency responds, whether it's the sheriff's office or OPD or another municipality. And once we get that type of call, our patrol units start responding. They start immediately calling some of our investigators. We have investigators that are embedded with the FBI. So we'll immediately start to notify our partners to help us with the response.
Do you have a recent example of where someone has come forward and stopped the potential contact?
I don't know, Ian, if you got one.
So I can't speak specifically to a particular event. I can say that this programs like this have rendered successful outcomes in the past. And going back to the question earlier of why now, like it was stated, this is not a new concept for the FBI. We have been doing this for a long time, but doing it as a whole of government approach is somewhat of a new concept. And I would take it a step further and say it's somewhat of a whole community approach. Our children, our families live, play soccer, go to school in these communities. So what we're doing by moving this initiative forward is really empowering the community to take that active role in helping law enforcement.
I hope that was Chief Ramon, if you could, about what Orlando Police is doing right now. If you could answer this level of the one.
So, el propósito para lo que estamos haciendo aquí hoy es para educar a los ciudadanos la importancia de reconocer que a veces cuando ven algo que quizás aparentemente es algo normal, quizás no lo es, que puede ser algo sospechoso. Por ejemplo, la mercancía que ven aquí, que cualquier persona puede comprar, si ven algo fuera de lo normal, una persona recibiendo mercancía en gran cantidad, una persona comprando mercancía en gran cantidad, puede ser algo que la persona necesita, pero también puede ser algo lo cual identifica que deben reportar la persona que quizás es sospechosa en la opinión de lo que lo está viendo. So, para nosotros es muy importante que los ciudadanos reconozcan que esto es algo posible, que alguien puede utilizar estos químicos para hacer hacerle un daño a otra persona.
¿Y qué está haciendo la policía?
Lo que estamos haciendo hoy, educando a nuestros ciudadanos la importancia de reconocer que esto puede suceder en cualquier comunidad, que alguien puede tomar los pasos para hacer algo lo cual puede crear daño y quizá causar muertes si no lo prevenimos. So, if I may, there was one more thing that I think is important. Obviously, we're referring to the bad actors who are trying to put things together by using some of these things, but there's also the component of those that are curious. And as you know, on the internet, you can find just about anything. So if you have a relative, a child, a teen, or something who's experimenting with stuff like this, trying to come up with something for the parents or for the family members, it's also important for them to recognize that if a family member is purchasing stuff like this, it may be a time to talk to that person and say, hey, what are you doing? Don't risk getting hurt or hurting us in the process. So it's an education opportunity for all of our citizens to recognize that there is the potential for someone to find these readily available chemicals, not only to harm people, but also to experiment and maybe harm themselves or others.
Are there any additional training efforts that have to happen with this program, working between local law enforcement and the FBI?
So I would just ask you to visit our webpage, CISA.gov/BMAP. It has a lot of different resources. Also, when you talk about the bomb threats, which is a really big concern, CISA.gov/what-to-do bomb threats. There's a video, pretty much a tutorial of what to do, and I really encourage you to watch it. But we have many products, and we also have some of these products in Spanish because we do that for different communities, and so they're available that way as well. I think the videos generally that we have will help you have understanding and awareness. And if you want to learn more, we will definitely be available to contact our phone number. And also, we have some fact sheets back there that you can use if you want to pass it out and let the public know.
Everybody good? Thank you. And you guys can